Hello everybody, this is Andrew here at Tower, and we are going to be checking out today a Revi Cheetah. We did an unboxing of that one just a little bit ago, so if you haven't seen that video, be sure to check that one out. I just finished getting this bike all built and tuned up, and we're just going to do a quick little run through, check the bike out, give some some thoughts, some pluses, some minuses, and just kind of let you know our general thoughts on the Revi Cheetah. So as you can see, the Revi Cheetah is sort of a classic cafe racer style looking e-bike with 26 by, I believe they are 4.0 tires. Yeah, 26 by 4.0. It's got nice fat tires on here that'll give you a nice plush ride. You know, they'll roll over things pretty easily. One of the most interesting things, in my opinion, on this particular bike is this dual crown fork we have here on the front. It definitely makes the bike look pretty mean, look pretty classic style. However, this fork does not have any suspension. All of these pipes are just straight rigid pipes, so they're purely for looks. They do look cool, I will give it that, but if you're looking, if you saw those forks, you're like, oh man, I'm gonna get some nice plush ride. They are just for looks. They have no suspension. For all intents and purposes, this bike is a full rigid bicycle. There is no suspension on here. That being said, the 4.0 tires, they are a nice, cushy tire. So you will get a little, depending on what tire pressure you're running, you may get a little cushion from that. The frame itself is all fully rigid. If we also look, we got this big giant headlight here. It's a pretty cool headlight. I was powering it on and off. It mounts on super easy. It's got a cool look to it. It's got two different power settings, a low and a bright. So that's a super cool feature about it. One of the other things I found interesting while building the bike is if we look down here in the front fork, right where it hits the frame, we have this little nub here. And if you look at this nub, when we turn the bike, is like a stopper. And the reason they put that in is because with these dual crown forks, a lot of times what you have is we can see right here, we can see that space, how close that fork is to hitting that frame. That's pretty common across, you'll see dual crowns on downhill mountain bikes. And a lot of times they'll have little rests here on the frame so that when that fork butts up against it, it doesn't damage the frame. This little knob down here inside the front of the fork, this is serving a similar purpose. It's just preventing the fork from fully rotating against into the frame. It's giving us a little stop beforehand. It's an interesting little feature. That being said, if anything happens to this little nub, it does seem like it's a proprietary part, so getting a new one of those may be a little difficult. One of the other things I also found interesting about this particular bike while building it is this cable routing here. So if we can see where this cable comes from the handlebar and then through this open part of the fork here. Now this is something that Revi bikes themselves did right out of the box. I did not route it this way. When I unwrapped the handlebars, this is what it appeared as. It doesn't look like you can route it any other way, so it is an interesting point, the fact that it routes here. It's really tight cable, so you don't have a lot of slack here. So if you were looking to get higher handlebars or raise this up at all, you will have to recable. That is a big thing to consider about this bike. Another interesting part about this bike is the full internal chamber here. This is where your battery and your controller are. So to take it off, there's two bolts underneath this little soft cover. You would undo those, and that will give you access to the internal battery and controller of this bike. And if we come back here towards the rear of the bike, we can see we have our 7-speed. This is a freewheel. This is not a cassette. Comes stock with a Shimano Altus derailleur there, which is a decent quality here. Right out of the box, the bike was pretty close to rolling. Didn't really need any adjustments to the shifting or the rear brake. The front brake did need a little bit of adjustment. Out of the box, it was pretty ready to go right then, so that's definitely a plus. One of the things I did notice when installing this wheel on the front fork down here is these dropouts at the bottom of the fork. The wheel did have a little bit of difficulty slotting into them. So they may have gotten a little bit bent during transit. They did have a post between here to prevent that, but it looks like it's still bent a little bit, so that is definitely something to be aware of with this particular bike. One of the other things that was very interesting, again, comes into this dual crown sort of decoration fork here, and that is if we look underneath where the stem is, I'll rotate the screen down, we can see they just put a regular short stem onto this bike, which is interesting. A lot of times when you have these dual crown forks, you'll have an integrated stem. So then you don't have to sort of straighten out your stem with relation to the fork because the stem will be mounting to the fork. This particular one, because they use just a regular stem with this dual crown fork, we did have to adjust it and get it straightened out, which with, as you can see, it's tight fit here. There's not a lot of space to move around. So definitely not a lot of room for adjustments, so definitely keep that in mind while you are thinking about this bike. We do have a little bell here on the right. We have a throttle to the right as well, right next to the shifter. If we head over to the left side, we can see this is our main control. We have our power button at the top. We have our set to change the mileage, things like that. We have our pedal assist levels, and then this button here can control our lights. One, as you can see on the wall over there, you see a pretty bright one. If we click it to 2, a little bit dimmer. This is more of like a daytime riding one. And then just right in the center is shut off. You do have some nice Tektro hydraulic brakes. Those are going to be nice and responsive for you while riding. However, one of the things I did notice is the front feels nice and tight, has good lever pull. However, the rear, as you can see here in a second, you can see that one goes all the way to the handlebars. The rear, we're definitely gonna have to top it off, give it a little bit of a bleed. That was right out of the box. We'll have to get a little bit of work on the braking, so definitely something to keep into consideration when thinking about this bike. And those are all of our kind of first thoughts, opinions, as we were building this bike and checking it out. Be sure to check out our ride video so you can check out what we think when we actually get this bad boy on the road and get it rolling. Thanks for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful day.